All right, so we're going to build another payroll iteration, but before we do, what I'd like you to do, if you would please, now if you look here, I'm at my desktop, and I've got that payroll folder where I've been putting everything in. Everybody understand what I'm talking about here? All right. The last one that I did, at least if you're using my naming conventions, was Payroll OOP1. So I'm going to open that, and I'm going to go all dig through my source folder, and I'm going to find we could use the same payroll class we used last time. We're just going to change the driver. Everybody hear me? We're going to use the same payroll class that we used in the last program that we did. That's this one right here. So rather than having to do any retyping, I'm going to grab that class and copy it, not just to the clipboard, but I'm going to copy it into Notepad++. You can copy it wherever you'd like to copy it to, but we're going to use the same exact payroll class that we used for the last example. We're going to use for this example. All right. So now that I've copied it out there, now I'm going to start back up IntelliJ IDEA. And I want to go, let's see, where is it? And I want to put it there. Again, I'm supposing you're using the same numbering scheme, the same naming scheme that I'm using. And if you've got a different one that you're using, that's fine. Then that's what you should be using. That's not good. It's not letting me start this up. There we go. All right. So I'm going to come into IntelliJ IDEA, create new project, default. So next. I'm going to tell it where I want to get it from. So that is Payroll OOP2 is mine, and I'm going to click Finish. Yeah, I think I did it there this morning, so I'm just going to overwrite it and remove what was there. All right. So once this comes up, all right, I'm going to go into my source here. See, I've already got these, so I'm going to remove them and just create them again. All right, so I'm back here. Okay, and I'll even remove this. All right, so now I'm going to right mouse click on my source, do a new Java class. You know it now by now, edu.rankin. For me, jpscott.payroll. All right, so that created this. Now, I don't want this class. I want the one we used in the last iteration. So I'm going to remove everything except the package statement, go back to where I copied it right here. Well, that's great. I want it now. Yeah, there. I think I just closed it. Yep. All right. Copy all that to the clipboard. Go back into here and just totally replace what was here. All right, so now what I have on the screen here is the exact same payroll class that I had for the last example that we did. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. And what I shouldn't have done this morning is just put that out there with this and then use the same name like I did. That screwed things up. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to create a driver for this. So again, I'm going to right mouse click on here, choose new, Java class, and this will just be payroll driver. You've seen this before. All right. So we've got our class, and now, I mean, that saved me having to type 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. All right. Which I think would have been kind of a waste. So now we're going to do the driver. Now, if you look up on the screen, please, for a second, everyone. This is what I sent you, so you see it. So that's the file I sent you. It has literally 50 first names and 50 last names in it. Okay? So I'd like you to open up that file, copy that file, those contents, to your clipboard, please. The class. You are copying the class over to this one. Yes. And I'm creating a new driver. And this is going to go into the driver, amongst other things, but this is going to go into the driver. Yes. No, not, I made a copy of it and just put it in there. I think you probably could just point to it, but I've not done that in this package. Yes, it is. Yes. So if you look in here, what I now have is I have, in my new project, Payroll OOP2, I've got Payroll, which is just the class I copied from OOP1. It's the same class, and now I've got an empty Payroll driver. That's what we're going to be filling in right now. All right. The idea behind this particular example was to show you some array stuff. And the reason I'm telling you that is I didn't call a boatload of setter and getter stuff. We did the setter stuff and we did the getter stuff in the last example. All right. So the stuff is in there. I just didn't call it much, really, probably at all in the driver. This was just meant to concentrate on arrays in here. All right. So the first thing we want to do in our driver is do the PSV and add our main. All right. And inside of main, the first thing I want to do is to declare and initialize. Oops, I'm going to put it in as a comment. Declare and initialize my program constant. I'm going to assume, because I don't feel like typing a lot, that we have 5 total employees. That's it. All right. I also want to come in and I want to declare and initialize two different format patterns. You've seen this before. Oops. All right, and you know this already because you've seen this happen. If I take my mouse and click there on decimal format, do an Alt-Enter, it'll add the import statement for me. So please look up on the screen. either manually enter this, import java.text.decimal format, so either manually enter that, or highlight the word and do an Alt-Enter and have it be entered for you. All right. The other thing that we're going to do in here, just so you're aware of it, is we're going to work with some random numbers in this particular program. So I'm just going to type in the import here. Import java.util.random with a big R. All right, so I'm going to add that. You can see if you look up on the screen, that is now in gray because the system is saying, hey, you've got that in there and you're not using it. We will use it in just a minute. We actually don't have that much to type in here, to be honest with you. We'll probably finish this fairly quickly. All right. So we've got our two import statements. We've got our package statement, our two import statements. I made a constant for the number of employees, and I made these two things. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, and again, we are inside of main here. So inside of main, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array of payroll objects that I just called emps. You can call it whatever you want. Now that line of code should make sense to all of you. It says I'm making an array of payroll objects. That array of payroll objects is going to be called emps, and there are tote emps, or 5 of them. All right? Also, I don't know why I did this, but I did, so I've got it. I'm gonna take my loop control variable and create it right here. All right, LCV, and finally I'm going to say random rand equals new random. So I seed the rand. You've heard that expression used before. All right. So those are those variables right there. I'm going to give you a second to catch back up. I actually put comments here. I'm going to run off the page, but I said here array of payroll objects. All right. Loop control variable. Seed the rand. All right. Once you are at this point, if you look up on the screen, then I want you to go in and grab that file that I sent you. This one, right here. See this? I want you to grab this file right here that I emailed you. Copy it to the clipboard and paste it in here. All right, so I have added those two string arrays. A string array called first name and a string array that's called last name. Again, you have all of those. I just wanted some variety so that when I kept running this, I would ideally keep getting different first names and last names. If you say, I don't know what you mean, it's because we haven't put that code in yet. Literally, what we have to type for this program is here, one page front and back, and about 10 more lines. We've already done one page. All right? So we don't have that much more to do in here. All right, Am I right in assuming everybody is caught up till this point? So there's a couple more variables that we want to add in here. I've got string fname, that's going to be the first name, equals the empty string. Again, that'll be the employee first name. I'll have lname in here, and that'll be the employee's last name. All right. Now I'm going to put in two more variables, and these might confuse you. So what I'd like you to do, if you would please, is look up on the screen here. Okay? If I asked you, if I said, Valerie, what is last name sub 3? You would go 0, 1, 2, 3. You'd say it's Sponsler. I think that's it. Okay? The point is, what I want to be able to do is I'm going to want the system to generate a random number between 1 and 50. And whatever number it generates, let's say it generates 40, I'm sorry, between 0 and 49. Let's say it generates 49. I'll want it to grab that name. Does that make sense? Okay. The reason I'm telling you that is now I put in two int variables. And I call this fnum, which I initialized to 0, and lnum, which I also initialized to 0, and I gave them comments. I just said first name array element number and last name array element number. All right. Then we have our old familiar hours and rate. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is, for lack of better words, is I'm going to get everything ready. So for you say, hey, wait a minute, Jeff. Didn't you just tell us that that was bad to do it like that? Well, there's only 5 members. There's only 5 employees. But I could have done that too. Okay, I could just say in here int emp length equals emps.length. So you can either do this and then put here emp length, or you can do it the other way. I don't really care. All right, either way is fine. But like I said, just so we had a little practice working with arrays here, okay, I did this. fnum equals ran.next int 50. lnum equals all right. Can you look at that and tell me what that's going to do? It's not meant to confuse you, but you know what that's doing. Okay, so I would say generate random number. You're right, yet you're wrong. And the reason that you're wrong is that's going to actually generate a random number between 0 and 49. All right? So from 0 to 49. Okay? And this will do the same thing. I'm being a little bit verbose by putting the same comment in there twice, but just so you see it. All right? Then I'm going to do this. Hours equal ran dot next. And I just used an int. There's other ways this can be done. 84 plus 1. And what that will do is to generate a random number from, in this case, 1 to 84. And I do need a semicolon there. What's that? No, you could have done that. All right. It works just fine the way it is. Okay. In fact, the question, if you all heard this, the question that just got asked here by Ethan was, should that be like a next double? You know what? If you really wanted to make sure that it was random, the other thing that we could have done is you can, right here, just so you see this, again, I'm just trying to show this to you, is you can say math.random. You can do that. And I think it's a little r that you put in there. All right. And that actually, I believe, will make, cannot be applied to int. Random and math cannot be applied to int. Why not? Oh, it's just math.random. Times 84 plus 1. Okay? So you might say, well, why are you doing that? It's a lot more typing. I get that, but that's supposed to be a lot more random than doing it the other way. Okay? So you can do it. There's a lot of ways this can be done. This, doing it like this, Ethan, will actually, the random will give you the decimal place. All right, so if you want to do that, that's fine too. So, in other words, what am I doing here? Well, I'm figuring out these two lines right here, if you look up on the screen. These two lines, if you're at all confused. This first line right here is going to give me a number between 0 and 49. That, if it's 0, it's going to be that name. If it's 49, it's going to be that name, and anything in between. Then we do the same thing again, and again, if it's 0, it'll be that one. If it's 49, it'll be that one. The same exact kind of thing. But all it's giving me is the number associated with that. All right? And then I'm generating random numbers for the hours and for the rate. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to instantiate a payroll object. But notice how I'm doing this. EMPS LCV, all right, the current one, is equal to new payroll. First name FNUM. Last name LNUM. hours and rate. So that's going to generate one of those 50 random names for the first name, one of those 50 random names for the last name, and the hours and rate will also be random. All right? And that allowed me to show you both using random numbers and a little bit of work using arrays. That's why I did it that way. All right? Probably a good time to do a file, save all. All right, so I've now, after I've gone through this 5 times, I've created my 5 payroll objects. Each payroll object, ideally at least, will have a different first name, last name, hourly rate, and hours worked. Is it possible that it could generate the same number twice? Sure it could. For any of these, it would be possible. I don't think with just 5 of them, I don't think that will happen, but it conceivably could happen. All right? So all I want to do right now is print these out. That's all I've got left to do. So this is going to fill them up. So in other words, this will fill up the emp array. And now that I've filled it up, I want to print out the emp array. All right? And I did both of these, just so you know. I did both of these. So for now, let's just do the system.out.print lines. Now, one thing I didn't do, every payroll person has got a number. You all hear me? Every payroll person has got a number. I just said the first person is payroll number 1, the second is number 2, the third is number 3, etc. I could have generated random payroll numbers, but I didn't. If you don't know what that means, you're going to in just a minute when you see it. INFO. I guess we didn't do a get employee number, so, all right. Did we do an emp number up here? Okay, I didn't even do anything with an employee number, so we don't need to worry about an employee number. All right. But we'll see in a second. So first name, this would be last name, what I just did there. Okay. let's just say hours. You're not going to be able to read it. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run it because I want to see when I run it if I have any errors. Hopefully I didn't put any errors in here. But if it works, when this gets done, okay, reach the end of the file when parsing. I'm sure I am, someplace. So there's probably one that goes here. That's probably what it is. So when you look, I have now generated 5 payroll objects. Santa Slape, hours, rate, it needs a little formatting, but you get the idea. Alejandro Larson, Johnny Slape. Now, see, notice we have 2 Alejandros. I'm surprised it did that, but it did. It can be 3 of them. That's not going to happen very often. Right? And it gave me the gross. All right, so I'd have to pretty this up just a little bit. So in other words, let's see, this should have colon space and colon space. That'll fix that. All right. But what I'm trying to get across to you is if you look on the screen here, please everybody, even if you're typing, stop for a second. When you put in the name of the array, dot, the system immediately picked up the method. It realized that, oh, that was a payroll object. Even though it's an array of payroll objects, that doesn't matter. It recognized the get first name, the get last name, the get hours, and the get rate. It recognized all that stuff. So we could have done this. We could have taken this whole thing and put it into a J option pane as well. It might have read a little nicer then. In fact, I did it, but it's just, why have you do all that extra typing? You want to do it? Hey, go ahead and do it. You don't want to do it? Then don't do it. Yeah. So taking the whole thing from the top, what did we do? All right, we've got our package statement. Nothing new right there. All right, we imported our decimal format for our patterns down here. We imported java.util.random, so we were able to do things with random numbers. There's our class header. There's our main header right there. All right, inside of main, the first thing we did was to declare a single constant that I called tot emps because we were going to have a total of 5 employees. After we did that, we declared and initialized the 2 format patterns, one with a $sign, one without a $sign. All right. Then we came in here and this is going to declare, it's not initializing, this is declaring an array of 5 payroll objects right there. This is our loop control variable here. And this, as we said, is seeding the rand. Then we had our list of 50 random first names that I got from listofrandomnames.com. All right. And then we had our list of 50 random last names that I got from the same site. So we've got 50 random first names and 50 random last names. Then we created some variables over here. These variables, this is the first name that we're about to generate. This is the last name that we're about to generate. So this first name, this F name, will be one of these. This last name, L name here, this will be one of these. But just to show you some stuff with random numbers, etc., I decided that rather than me hard coding in values, I would write something where the system would pick from a list of values. All right. This variable right here is going to be the numeric position in here. This variable right here will be the numeric position in here. All right, then we've got our hours and we've got our length. And then I just said, make it a little simpler, we'll say emp length equals emps.length. All right, then we're going to run through this. You know this by now. We've done this many, many times. This says 5 times. Figure out a number between 0 and 49. Figure out another number between 0 and 49. That's what those first 2 lines that you see right there, that's what they're doing. Then figure out an hours that happens to be between 0 and 84. And this one also does. All right. Then actually create the new payroll object based on what I just gave you. Based on the randomly generated first name, the randomly generated last name, the hours that we did right here, and the rate that we did right here. And then all we're doing here is print them out. Okay? If you'd all look on the screen for just 1 second, I'm done with this, but just let's assume for a second we've got 5 employees, right? Let's assume that the 5th employee, we wanted to change all of their information. Everybody with me? We want to change the information for the 5th employee. So we could have come in here and said emps 4 dot, okay, so we could have said, you know, set first name, and I could have set it to my name then. Okay? Then I could have done last name. And I could have done hours and rate. All I'm trying to show you here is that I could do that and I could print out. So now all I've done is I've changed the last employee. So what do I want to do here? Well, I'm going to grab the same stuff that we had in here before. Last name, first name, hours, rate, and gross. All right. I better do well, Okay, so I've got all this stuff. So I don't want to say MCell CV now. I want to say 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4. All I'm trying to show you is all I did was I changed all the values that were in there for one employee. That's it. All right, so let's see if that indeed worked. Put some blank lines between there. Do a file, save all, and let's run. So notice payroll object 1 is Jana Athy. Number 2 is Evan or Yvonne, I don't know, Jurgens. Number 3 is Corey Gove. Number 4 is Giuseppe Slap. But then I went in, or Slap, and I changed, or then we have 5, and that's Cora Berthelot. All right, but I changed it then to me, Jeff Scott 50 10, and I know by looking at that my overtime works. All right, but the difference is this time, rather than having 5 different variables like M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5, I have an array with 5 different elements. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you understand the idea behind the program? Right? Because I'm going to ask you to do something similar to this when you take the test next week. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I replaced this one. I don't really have 6. I've got 5. And this was a replacement of this one right here. Okay. And the only reason that I put that in, I didn't even put that in the example that I did of myself, but the reason I put that in was so that you could see that we can call all the individual methods, the sets and the gets. That's all. Any question on any of this? Is there anyone who thinks they typed it incorrectly, but you're not getting the results? You're getting an error or whatever. Because again, when you take the test next Monday, it will concentrate almost solely on chapters 6, 7, and 8. Chapter 6 was our introduction to objects. This is chapter 7, where we want to be able to create arrays of objects. All right? Tomorrow when we go through chapter 8, we will talk about objects in even a little bit more detail. All right? Then Thursday we will go over chapter 9, but your test won't be on anything from 9. I will expect you to turn this program right here in as you've all, I believe, turned in the first object-oriented program we did from chapter 6. This will be the one then from chapter 7. Does that make sense? No, 3A was the one that we did for chapter 6. All right? So, at 3A is OOP 1, for lack of better words. All right? Any questions, though? This is your time to ask if you have any. Did you finish the test of me? Okay. And you sent it to me? Okay. All right. Then, since Amin has finished, what I'd like to do next is to go over the test with you. Now, the problem is, if I give you back your tests right now, you're not going to listen to a flipping word I say. You're going to be looking at your test and making sure I added right. And you're going to be looking at the test, what the hell did he take off on this for? And that's what you're going to be thinking of. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the entire test for you. All right, I'm going to write everything that I did. Again, at least one or two people in here did it in quite a ways different than I did it, which is fine. All right. Mr. Fugner is the only one who actually tried to do the extra credit, all right, to my knowledge, and it worked, so he got the 10 points. Now, you didn't have to. I didn't care if you tried it or not. It's just that I remember, a couple times people have said to me, you don't give any extra credit. You don't do, so I did that. All right. You never want to do the extra credit. You're sure as heck not hurting my feelings. All right. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save all here, and then I'm going to do a file, close project. All right. And I'm going to come in. Let's see. Do I have the test still? Got it here someplace. Java Hot 1, that looks like it. Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm going to just grab every bit of this. I didn't ask you to do this, but I'm going to grab every bit of this. All right, and now I'm going to start up a brand new project. I've already got a project on here that I've done that's called Birthday. So I'm going to recreate it, and I'm going to call it Birthday 2. All right? Now, especially if you did this test and you think, well, I know when he gives it back, I really sucked big time. I blew chunks. There's no way I did well on this. Okay? So if that happens to be you, all right, then please don't type. Please watch. That's the thing. I see some of you in here, especially those of you who type slow, you're already 2 thoughts behind what I'm doing. All right? And I feel for you. All right? I've given you some resources to make you better typists, but most of you have not taken advantage of those resources. Okay? So I'm going to put a folder here. Whoops. Let me put a folder here on my desktop under Payroll that's now going to be called Birthday 2. All right. And I'm creating this project, and it's going to be called Birthday 2. Boom, there it is. Now, for this project, you weren't asked to do anything object-oriented. All right, you weren't asked to do anything at all object-oriented in here. All right, so there's my package. I've got that comment, or I had the comment. I don't know what I did with it. I guess it's still here. Copy that to the clipboard, and I'm just going to paste that on top here. You didn't have to do that. You weren't asked to do anything special with comments on this, but there it is. All right, I can go and straighten that up and pretty it up later, but I've got this stuff in here now. All right, so the first thing, that I literally put all those in as comments. Why am I telling you that? Because the whole first page of this is all that comment. All right. So I asked you to do it with J option pane. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to import javax.swing.J option pane. All right, so there's that. Okay, now we've got our public class birthday. Well, what I did at the top of my class was I created all my constants. Okay, so static, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 constants. They all start with static final int. Okay? All right. The minimum month, I said equal to 1. The maximum month, I set equal to 12. You already know what those are. I don't think they need comments. The minimum year, I set equal to 1900. The maximum year, we set equal to the current year. There are Java date methods that could be used to get the year. There's like a get full year method, all right? So we could have done something like that. I didn't do it, but that could have been done. All right. I've got min day. Well, we know that the minimum day you can have is 1. All right. I created 4 other constants. Max 31 that I set equal to 31, max 30 that I set equal to 30, max 29 that I set equal to 29, and max 28 that I set equal to 28. You did not have to do that. But that's just the way I did it. I don't normally like to put numbers in any of my variables or constants, but I did anyway. So it was fine. Now, I'm asking the question here. Is there anything in these constants that don't make sense to people? Do you understand what each one is signifying? Yes? All right. So, those were the constants. Then I also came in and I created variables. All right? And I didn't want to have to pass anything around. The question got asked during the test. Can we make this stuff global? Might as well. So here I said declare and initialize variables. And they were pretty much what you'd think. Static, int, month, not get month, get min month, just month, oops, which I just set equal to 0. So I had month, day, and year. All right. And I also had a static string that I called, oops, input str, which I initialized to the empty set. All right. So this will be the month that I read in, the day I read in, the year I read in, and this input string is just going to be a temporary thing I use. Does that make sense? All right. So that's what I've got so far. Again, if you go, well, mine didn't look anything like that, it doesn't mean anything. All right. So PSV. So there's my main. This is again where I'll do everything, so to speak. All right. Well, I had a thing called, I created a Boolean that I called continue program. Notice if I just type in continue, it's blue because continue is a key word. So I call it continue program, and I set that equal to true. All right, then I said while continue program, which is that shortcut for while it's equal to true, and I called input month, input year, input day, and display all. And every one of you should know that those are red right now because I haven't written them yet. All right, they're non-existent. And when I got done with that, I said, okay, continue program equals, and I'm going to have another thing here which I'm calling run program again. Now, ideally at least, this is written in a way you can look at it and kind of know what every one of these routines is going to do. Input month is going to allow me to, it's going to make sure I input a number between 1 and 12. Input year is going to make sure I input a number that's between 1900 and 2018. Input day is going to depend on the month. Does all that make sense? All right. Then it's time to go in and write these. So, since that's the first one, that's the one I wrote first. I know that's really, wow. So, public, static, void, and there's input month. All right. Some of you, I think, made this a lot harder than it had to be. This is my opinion. Okay. So I said here input str, that's that input string. It's equal to j option pane. All right. Dot show input dialog. And what do we want to input? Well, I said here, please input month between and I used, oh boy, get out of there. Let's move this over. Okay. So it's between min month and max month. So if I did this correctly, if it's correct, and it's missing some stuff there, but if I did this correctly, what should end up happening when I run this is it should say, please input a month between 1 and 12. Does that make sense? Some of you got dinged on this because you used an if statement there. That was wrong. If you used an if instead of a while, it'll only run it once. And if you put in a bad number the second time, it'll take it then. You needed to put that into a while loop. All right, so this now is just while month is less than min month or month is greater than max month. What do you want to do? You want to keep running this thing. So I took and copied everything that was in here, put it in here. And then just preface this with error \n. All right, and then return. No, there isn't even a return in here. That's it. So notice now when I run this, it's by no means complete, not at all. But all right, in fact, it's going to give me an error because I haven't written those other routines yet. But it's good. This is going to keep me in here until I enter a number between 1 and 12. The good news is now I can grab this. This is what I was hoping you'd do, would be to just grab that whole thing. All right, hit enter a couple times here. Whoops. Come on, stop it. Hit enter a couple times, paste that back in again. Now you've got input day. And what are you changing here? Well, input a day between, I'm sorry, it's input year, my error. So that was the year. Input year between min year and max year. So it's the same flipping routine that we just did. Exactly, except you're changing it from day to year, and you are changing the constants also. Now, if you did that, you already had these two written. And like I said, maybe I expected too much. I have no idea. But I figured everybody could do that. All right. So now I've got the month inputted. I've got the year inputted. Those are those routines that are right here. So the next thing for me to do is to input the day. That's done, that's got more to it than the other one did. But I want to now input the day. All right, so again, that's the next thing that has to be done here. Okay. Notice as soon as I do that, that error is now gone. Okay. In fact, if I come through here now and I type in if I come in here and type in display all, all right, now I have, the only other error I have is run program again. So if I go and copy that in, and that's got to be a Boolean, which you have to spell right. Run program again, and I'm just for now, so I have something here, I'll return true. All right. All I'm trying to show you is if you look up on the screen now, is from what I've done thus far, notice when I run this. The system comes up. Oh, crud. Oh, look, it doesn't like something. Oh, I've got too many curlies. All right, try it again. All right, I'm down to 1. Left off a semicolon. Try to run it again. Cannot find symbol display all. There's display all. Somehow I just lost display all. I don't know how, but let's put it in there again. That's a void. It's not returning anything, so I can get rid of that line too. All right. Day, okay. File, save all, run, run. So look what we have on the screen. Now if I put in something out of range, 0, error, tells me to do it again. 13, error, it tells me to do it again. All right, so I'll put in this month, which is 1. All right, now a day, I'm sorry, a month rather. Yeah, there's still an error. We'll fix it. Let's see, 7. Yeah, doesn't like something, so let's check on that. It could be my test, it could be all sorts of stuff. Well, it's got me in an infinite loop, which isn't good. I'm just going to put that down here for now and look at my test. All right. We started with input month, while the month is less than min month, or the month is greater than max month. Do all that. All right. While it's less than min month, which we set to 1, or it's greater than max month, which we set to 12. Those both look okay to me. Less than 1 or it's greater than 12, telling it to do it again. All right. Oh. There's the input string, but what did I not do? Somebody tell me? How about this? Month equals integer dot parse int input string. I didn't do that once, so that's got to copy, put that in here. I've also got to do that in here for the year. That should be, this should be year. this, of course, should be year, year, and year. All right, then I've got to copy this in, and now this will be year is equal to that. And then down here, again, year. Now let's look at it. Run, run. All right. 0 doesn't work. 13 doesn't work. 1 does work. Now it's asking for a year. Try 1899. Doesn't work. Try 2019. Doesn't work. Try this year. It does work. All right. Now, that's just the code, the extra code I've got in there. But what I've done so far, that's going to make sure that the value that you put in is between those two values. All right? And I've got it in a loop right now, so that's just going to keep running and running and running. All right? Good. It blew up. That's good. But what I'm trying to get across to you is if you look up on the screen, what I was expecting you to do were to at least create these constants. All right? Create your variables. Put in some kind of a loop. Have meaningful variable names, have meaningful method names. In your month, make sure that the person puts in a value between 1 and 12. For their year, make sure that it puts in a value between 1900, I think it was, and 2018. Then is the day. All right, so let's write that one. Now again, this is how I did it. Everybody hear that? Probably no one did it exactly like this, but I came in here and I had my own variable, local variable I called max. I set it equal to 0. Okay? Then I said max equal determine max. So I'm going to write another routine here called determine max. Anybody want to guess what that's going to do? Yeah. So that's going to return either a 28 or a 29 or a 30 or a 31. Does that make sense? I already know what the year is. You agree with that? Because we already did a routine called input year, right? We've already done that. So the way I wrote determine max, and again, you didn't have to do it like this, but this is how I did it. I had int m, which is going to be the max, equals 0. Then I wrote a big switch statement. I switched on whatever the back before I even do that. What do I have to know? What do I have to know about the year? What's special about the year? Come on, you took the test. Leap year. All right. So I created a Boolean variable here that I called ly or not, and I set it equal to false. Ly or not is literally leap year or not. Okay? That's what it is. All right? So I know if the month is 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, or 12, I know the max is 31. Does that make sense to everyone? I know that. I already know also, I know already what the month is. So I can do a switch based on what that month was. And I can come in here and say case 1, case 3, case 5, case 7, case 9, case, it wasn't 7, I'm sorry, 7, 8, case 10, case 12. If it's any of those, M, our max, is equal to max 31. All right, and break. Now I've handled 7 of my months. So let's handle 4 more. Case 4, case 6, case 9, case 11. Let's steal that code here. Now I know the maximum is 30. Does all that make sense? Okay, I've now handled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and of course, what I got left is that stupid February. Okay? So I just put that in the default case. You didn't have to do that, but that's the way I did it. And I said, the leap year or not, that flag is going to be equal to a routine I'm going to write now called leap year or not. The good news is I gave you that routine. I literally took it right from that URL that I gave to you. All right? Now I'm going to say if it is a leap year, then M is going to be equal to max 29, else M is going to be equal to max 28. And then when I'm all done with all this, I have to just return M. All right, well, I've got a routine I haven't written yet, this leap year or not routine. So I've got to write that. Trying to figure out what that's from. Missing, oh, no, there's a return right there. Return M. That's got to be outside of this. Return M. There. All right. So the only thing that's left is to write that leap year or not program, or method, I should say. And again, I took it, like I told you, exactly from the way that it was in the book, or the URL that I gave you. Public, static, Boolean, geez, I cannot spell, leap year or not, okay, and I ended up, somewhere in here, I've got the, where is that? Like I said, this was the URL for it, so let me just do that. I found this, and this is what I did. I used this exact line that they have here with just a couple changes. All right. So I said, just like we had, Boolean is leap year, and I did all of these checks, every single check that we had in here, this and this or that. All right. If that was true, we knew it was a leap year. Otherwise, we knew it wasn't a leap year. So I said here, question mark, true, colon, false. All right, that's going to have it one way or the other. Then I just returned is leap year. All right. So by the time I get done with this, determine max, okay, I'm going to have either already set it to 31, or I've set it to 30, or I come in here and check, and if it's a leap year, if it's not a leap year, which it'll be, most of the time, probably should do it that way. I'll set it to 28. Otherwise, I'll set it to 29. That's it. All right. Now, is there any more work I have to do? Well, yes. And maybe because I made this harder than I should have, I don't know. But this function right here, this display all, right now I've got it totally set up so it'll display today's date as 1-16-2018. Correct? I've got all that stuff. But I don't have the word January, so to print it the other way. So in my display all routine, I said, okay, the first thing I want to do in display all, way down on the bottom here, there, is I want to figure out the month name. So I said string month name equals determine month name. Again, I'm getting an error here, and I'm getting an error there because I haven't written that routine yet. So I'll come down there right now and write this routine. Public static string determine month name. All right, so what did I do? I did the same exact switch that I did up here. Okay, or the same kind of switch. So I did another switch. So I switched on the month. But now, what do I have to do? Well, I have to say case 1. All right. Then the month name is equal to January. And break. All right. To try to make this faster, I'm going to see if I can get away with some copy and paste. All right. So 1 is January. 2 is going to be February. 3 will be March. 4, April. You know how this works. So I've got all that now. I didn't even put a default in there. I could have, but I didn't. So I want to return the month name. All right, that's got to be a 12. So now I'm in here. Now I know what the month name is. So I said here, string output str equals the empty string. Output, I've got 3 more lines to go, and then mercifully we're done with the program. Output string plus equals what? Month name, all right, plus a space, plus the day, plus space with a comma, space, plus the year. All right? So that should write out January space 18th, comma, space 2018. So that's one of them. So I want a new line. Then I said here month plus a dash plus day plus a dash plus year. And then J option pane, null, output, str. Okay, J option pane dot show message dialog. There we go. So let's take it for a spin. Just see if it works. Save all, run it. Try it first with, putting in stuff that actually works. So 1/18, 2018. Well, something screwed up here you can see on the days, so I'll have to fix that. All right. Now, the only thing I'm not doing yet is I'm not asking to do it again. Okay? So I've got to fill in that one. We did that code earlier where we asked if you wanted to run the program again. You already had that. All right? So notice if I do a 2 for the month, and for the year, let's do a leap year, which like 2000 was. All right? Well, it didn't ask me. It should have. Never asked me for the day. So there's still some mistakes in it. All right? I would have been better off just writing it from scratch than trying to take it from here. Right? So I'm going to pass this back, and this is what I'm going to do, because some of you didn't do your usual bang-up job. Some of you had problems. Okay? So I will let you, you've got to have this to me by the first thing in class tomorrow. You can make up half of the points that you lost. All right? Now I'm going to send Tiffany an email, and I'm sorry she's not here, but she's got to meet the same standard as everybody else. So again, I tried to write on here if I took off. I tried to write why I took off. So this has got on here both your grade for the homework and your grade for the test. So if you got an 80 as an example, all right, if you got an 80 and you make all the changes and you get it to work, you turn it back in, I give you 10 points back. Does that make sense? And I think rather than going on and doing the array fun one right now, I think what we'll do is I will just give you the last hour and a half today, or hour and 20 minutes, all right, to work on this. If you don't have to work on it, I'm sure you can find something to amuse yourselves for an hour and 20 minutes. So you got an hour and 20 minutes. If you don't finish it by that time, do it at home tonight, but I will want it by the time class starts tomorrow. Did everybody hear what I just said? Amin, I will grab yours and just literally grade it in about 5 minutes, all right? probably, maybe I'm wrong, that probably could have even been written like this. That would have been even simpler. Yeah, that's true. That's a real good point.